Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Thursday, September 14th, 2023, and we're going to be talking about the last couple weeks. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do a show last week as we were both under the weather, and then so we'll talk about just some of the concerns that have kind of popped up over the last 2 weeks of the season. Mainly, I think you kind of got it boiled down to 4 areas right now that we both have some concerns, questions, comments about. But anything's fair game with that, with the team as a whole. And then we will talk about the Western Kentucky game that's coming up here on Saturday. Not really a great slate of games this week in the country or in the conference, but next week should be a pretty good week.
Yeah, next week will be good.
A lot of big games are kicking off next week, so so it seems like this is kind of like the lousy final preseason game for everybody, and then football, a lot of big games next weekend. So that'll be pretty much the tonight's show. So so the last 2 weeks, we've played Indiana 23-3. We beat them, and then 35-7 against Youngstown State. So score wise, definitely nowhere near anything that we were expecting. They did win both games. They were in control of both games for pretty much the whole game in both things. But a lot of sloppiness, some stuff. It happens early the season. I think probably the Youngstown State game is just a little bit more difficult to take in general, just because you expect them to, that to be a much more wider margin of a game for Ohio State. The 23-3 Indiana, even though there's, definitely things that, did not look good, could have, you kind of just take that one. There's been obviously was a lot going on with the quarterback situation, heading into the season. And, I think we'll start there with the quarterbacks. It's kind of just one of the positions that we kind of marked down as, the concern, questions, comments, all that stuff with. But, we did get an answer this week is Mccord. It wasn't really any sort of a competition the first week as Devin Brown only played 2 series, I believe 6-7 snaps. Can't remember how many.
That sounds about right.
Last series, but McCord played most of the game, pretty much the whole game. He looked all right. And then he looked a lot better this past week against Youngstown State. Definitely the offense seemed like it moved a lot smoother with him than it did with Devin Brown. But, and we kind of talked about after the game ended that, it's probably, they should just make the call now and make him the starter, officially Mccord. And that's what he did this week. So, Mccord is the definite starter of Ohio State. Brown might get in there here and there, but, it's McCord's team now. So let's just start there. Quarterbacks, kind of just your general thoughts of so far, and, just wherever you want to go with that one.
Well, Kyle McCord's outplayed Devin Brown. Devin Brown didn't really get a fair shake week 1. I kind of alluded to, I was scared that was going to happen when we did the preview for week 1, because Ryan Day is Ryan Day. He's a creature of habit. He's not just going to split reps 50-50 out of nowhere. The guy won't let backup quarterbacks come in when his team's up 40 points. So I knew it was going to be hard for him to take McCord out of a rhythm. So Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that was going to happen. McCord grew as that game did. He got better as the Indiana game went along. I mean, things got more comfortable. He made better passes. I know people said that Marv didn't get a touchdown. Marv went out of bounds. That's, there's no blame to go around for that. I mean, Big Ten officials said he got pushed out, so his touchdown should have counted. We still scored on that drive. It wasn't like a, drive kill or anything like that. Week 2, though, Kyle looked a lot more comfortable. And I just don't, Devin came in. Devin's not anywhere near as athletic as what some have advertised him. However, I mean, there's got to be something with Devin in running, because Ryan calls plays for Devin to be more of a runner. I mean, he calls QB counters, powers, read options when Devin's in there. So there's definitely something about him that Day likes as an athlete. Yeah. Just hasn't been able to let it shine yet. But against each other, Kyle definitely looked better, though. His passes were better. I think Devin had bright spots, though. It wasn't as crisp as Kyle was. I did like on the second touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison, people were saying, McCord made a bad pass or whatever, but Justin Zwick was talking on the live show the other day. He's like, oh yeah, he put it right in the guy's lap. What a horrible pass. He had to get it past 2 defenders. He did. Yes. Marv had to turn all the way around to catch the ball, but how many times over last year, I guess Marv didn't really play 2 years ago, but we didn't criticize CJ and say he made horrible, ugly ass throws when Marv was the only person in the universe that could catch those balls. So I'm not going to criticize the guy for that. He knew where Marv could catch it. He knew he had to get it past those guys. Wasn't the prettiest ball ever, but it ended up at a touchdown. It wasn't like it was deflected or anything. So yeah, I'm good with it. So yes, I think the right decision was made. The right time to make the decision was, for it to be made. Would have liked to see it been more 50-50 starting off with Indiana, but once it was there, I think that's just the way it had to be.
Yeah, no, that's how my feelings are with everything. I kind of was, ready. I kind of said even after the Indiana game, as we were talking in private, I'm like, he should just make McCord the starter. I mean, obviously this is not whatever idea of competition that this was going to be. It didn't work out. So, he just obviously feels more comfortable with McCord. And, at the end of the day, his opinion is the one that matters. I know a lot of people says, well, he did the straw poll, blah, 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 all that stuff. But, he is the head coach of the team. It's his decision. So, he's got to live with it, one way or another.
And if he would have came back and Devin Brown was the starter last game and he let him play the whole game and it looked better, I mean, I would have been all for, there being an open discussion then. But once he did it another week, even though Devin Brown got more play, he got more play than Kyle did. It just at that point, it didn't really, doesn't even out,
part of me, I wonder, I think, for a lot of things we've heard is that, between the two of them, the Devin is definitely the much more in your face, boisterous one. So I think that probably has something to do with it. But, he has that, maybe that leadership intangible, even though I don't like saying stuff like that, because there's a lot of quiet guys that can still be leaders. There's, you kind of need, both. I think some of that stuff gets blown out of proportion. You need some people to be in people's faces, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the quarterback, as long as the quarterback has proven himself.
I mean, I do think, though, that there is a problem with this team, that they don't have enough people to step up and be vocal.
I agree with that. Day did address that in the press conference, and we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We definitely know that there's not many of them that like to be out in front of getting interviewed. And so, there could be some, that might be skewing a couple things too. But just quickly, just on Devin Brown, I think, I don't know, maybe if Ryan Day and some of the other offensive coaches, they got lost in the idea that, Brown he was not getting hit during, fall camp. So maybe he was making some plays and maybe the defense weren't really going that hard and, at him because they couldn't really tackle him. So, and, maybe that kind of got lost in translation. They were like, okay, he's making plays, but we kind of need to see this, full blown and live reps. And it's not that it doesn't seem like he's necessarily a bad athlete. It's just that I don't think there's enough there that's a difference between them. I mean, we did see, a scramble from Mccord against Indiana that looked pretty good. So I think as long as Mccord is willing to take off when he needs to take off in key moments, I think whoever's the better of the two throwing the ball is the one that they should go with, just because obviously, as you saw when they let things rip and they're playing fast and stuff like that, that's when their offense is the best. So, and I just think the offense is more crisp with him. And, it's, it is time. I do think, picking the guy before the Western Kentucky game is the right decision, because let's get the guy as full of confidence as possible going into next week against Notre Dame. And so, and it might be false confidence. It might be real confidence. I don't know, but it's just getting Kyle feeling good about himself heading into Notre Dame is, so much of football is mental. And if he, thinks he's, the man, then, might play like the man. It's, that's a lot comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, the quarterback that was answered this week, so let's move to the running game, and then we'll go to the offensive line next. Cause the running game, this is a mixture of a lot of different things. It's the blocking. It's weird to me, again, I've never played college football. I played high school football, offensive line. It's just run blocking is typically easier to do than pass blocking. And it just seems like, but there is an attitude, and Justin Frine did talk about that in his interviews today. There's an attitude that comes with, run blocking, and, and like I said, we'll get to the line here in a second. First, we'll go running game, since I don't know. It's last year. Is it an even mixture of the backs just not hitting the holes hard enough? Is it bad vision? Is it bad line play? Is it bad play calling? It's just like the same issues that have really plagued them since JK left, is still kind of there. And
Sermon did all right.
Sermon did. Finally, when he got going, he did, when he was healthy towards the back end of the season. Yes, he did do all right. But again, he was a very decisive runner. And so there's times I think, is Trey not decisive enough, even though later in the Youngstown State game, he had a couple runs where he was very decisive, and, he made some nice plays, got 2 nice touchdowns. He scored 3 times, 1 got called back. So so I did like that. I think Mayan's a little bit more decisive, but he just doesn't have maybe the top end speed to hit that hole like Trey does, when Trey wants to just go right through the hole, and then, Chip Trainum looked unbelievable against Indiana, a little different against Youngstown State, but that's not really on him. I mean, he's doing a lot of different things right now, playing that mid-Rossi spot and, being a running back here and there. So it's just interesting how some of the stuff is working out.
They can't run stretch to the boundary. It's impossible. They can't do it. Whatever is wrong with that team, it's ineffective. They can't block it. They can't run it. They need to burn that part of the playbook.
No.
Trey, the zone scheme, I don't know. It just doesn't work for him. There's always a person there. It doesn't help that it's to the boundary. I think if it was to the field, Trey could at least use his speed to try to get around somebody. There's not enough field there. There's always somebody right in his face. There's always someone, right at the cutback point for him. Yep. And he's not comfortable cutting back against his body. And I think Ryan Day, in his mind, he looks at that, and there's a ton of open field if you can make that play, because you're cutting back to the field, but it's never there. They can't block it. I mean, we're going on 3 years where the backside end blows that play up every single time. In Indiana, it was just like, once you see this play, shoot a gap. And I mean, that Aaron Casey lived in the backfield. And I think the other one, Andre Carter, I think his name was, he lived in the backfield. It's like, I understand when you say Trey's got to be able to make a cut, but that's really hard when you got somebody in your face as soon as you touch the ball.
Yeah, it's hard to make the cut when the guy is right there to begin with.
They can't block it. So scrap that part of the playbook. I think Chip's much better at it. Like he was, and you saw it week 1, he was anticipating more where he needed to start that cut because that the 3-tech was so hard for Hinsman to get to. So he was going right off of Hinsman's back, making the cuts, and he looked a lot better doing it. Mm-hmm. But then when you get into the Youngstown State game, they ran more, gap or power blocking schemes, and Trey looked much better because he is, when you tell him where to go, he does a good job with it. Or the last touchdown for 30 yards was to the field side, and he was able to run around and get open and get into space. Yeah. So continue to get him into space. I think it'll be fine. I mean, I'm of the opinion that you run a gap scheme better. If you still want to go with the zone blocking, that's fine. Just stretch to the boundary doesn't work. Yeah. Like I'm okay with you mixing it in, but that can't be your base run.
Yeah. And, kind of just a thought, when you kind of watched a little bit of the Alabama Texas game over the weekend, and it's still early in the season. I don't know how much of really the advancement of the playbook is being shown right now. It doesn't seem like a lot. It's pretty vanilla still. But, Sarkisian did do a lot of, to help the running game out, did a lot more passing to the back. So, like, I hope some of that stuff.
Sark's just a better mind with that stuff than Day is.
Like, I just think that I hope some of that stuff is shown. I mean, it was nice seeing them run that screen, and and they do need to include some of those pass plays into the offense because that's basically an extension of the running game, and that works. So I like the wheel routes or the we've seen so far this year.
That was nice.
I'd like to see that ran with Trey, and nothing against my end. It's just that, Trey's just got a little bit more of a burst, and, on a couple of those, mine was, had a step on the guy. I mean, if that would have been a Trey, if it would have been the same throw on those prior touchdowns, and, I definitely want to see stuff like that going forward. Definitely agree with you. I mean, we've talked about this, forever. That boundary run just doesn't work. The stretch run, for whatever reason, whether it's Trey, the line, both, it just doesn't work, and they need to go away from it. The field run, I loved it when they ran it to the field side on the touchdown, yeah.
Well, that was a read play too.
It was a read play, and so it was a little different. But that guy couldn't. The defensive end almost got to Trey, but Trey had enough grass in front of him that he could at least use his speed to get around him, and then he scored. And but those earlier the back-to-back touchdown runs he had, the one was called back, and then they ran it a couple plays later. That's what I want to see from him when he knows how to get right upfield. Like, he is just as dangerous as he was 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's just they need to start calling better plays for him. And, sometimes I think that, not everything works for every single player in an offense. So you got to kind of get out of your mindset and, call the plays that work for the guys that you have in there. And, and yeah, sure, Trey probably could be a little bit better, hitting the holes a little harder. But, I just, for whatever reason, he has all the athletic tools. It's just that, he just doesn't see certain cutback lanes as good as other backs in the past. And that's okay. You don't have to be, the greatest, have the greatest cutback vision in the world. Not everybody is born with that can just see it, so you scheme it up to where you can scheme it up at the work for them. So, hopefully they start doing it. I don't want this to be a nagging thing as this year goes on. It's just, because it just seems like it's repetitive because we've talked about it so much with some of the other stuff. So, that's kind of just my thoughts there.
Before moving on, and this is something I really thought about more so today. I mean, I don't know, kind of pessimistic today. Not overly, but just thinking about things. Why over the last 2 years? And I know Day was like, he's hell bent to prove that the team is tough and they can get 2 yards when they need it. I don't get, though, with Ohio State's talent, even if it's a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, why are we going jumbo sets in the middle of the field? Like, why are you scheming it up only to go 1 yard? Like, why are you running your normal playbook that you can get 10 yards out of something?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense why you're just lowering yourself just to move the chains. Like, do more than that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Like, hey, let's just go to be a power team that we're not because it's only 1 or 2 yards to gain. Like, be who you are.
Yeah. And you can spread, you can
be tough and spread teams out.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how tough Urban's teams
it's
were.
not like conflicting ideologies, like you can still be tough in a spread run offense.
Like, when you think about all the times, under Urban, when they would get those first downs and why, there wasn't like a lot of magic to it. You had a running back and you had a quarterback and neither one of them could take it.
Yeah.
And, the receivers, those spread the guys out. And so they weren't packed in there as hard as they are, nowadays. So yeah, that is definitely an issue.
It just irritates me. Like, why are you running goal line from the 50-yard line?
Like, yeah. And, I mean, I like all of our tight ends too, but I like having, Marv and Abuka on the field.
You got the best players in the country. Let them on the field.
Yeah.
Like, make them a threat.
Yeah. And you force a couple of those safeties to the outside and, you might get a first down. I don't know. I mean, yes, that's a definite issue. So, offensive line is, I think, the big issue right now.
Yeah.
Offensively. Now, I don't know how to take from it. I did feel like they did play better against Youngstown State than they did against Indiana. But like I said, I don't know how
competition.
I don't know how to, judge it, and honestly, we're not going to really probably know where the offensive line, if, are they progressing every week or are they just not good? And we're not going to really know that until next week. And so cause they can make improvements on paper, against Western Kentucky and still, just not be there yet for when they go up against, a much more quality defensive line next week in Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So so that is what's really worrying me. I do like that the fact that it seemed like, they did get better as the game was going on. They were able to shed a couple blocks and get up to the second level, as the second half was going in this last game, so that's good. Maybe they are starting to communicate with each other to the point that is working. Like I said, level competition is what it is. And I did like the fact that they ran those 2 touchdown runs, that even though the one was called back, I did like that they ran those 2 touchdown runs to the left.
Yeah.
I think that was needed. I think that is a confidence booster, even though, I mean, Simmons did rip the guy's head off on the one, literally, which is illegal, but, he, and even though he maybe got a little too close on the second one too, even though his hands were fine, and that guy at that point, if that head would have came off on the second touchdown, that would have been on the defensive lineman, in my opinion, because I mean his arms were hitting the guy's chin, not on the helmet, and so
there is no review for that play. So.
I know there's no review, but I would at least. The Big Ten could have come back on that one and said we made a mistake.
Yeah,
because that seems like that's happening a lot. So
right,
the line is definitely a concern, but 2 starting tackles, even though Fryer has played, and the center is new, and you got very experienced guards that have played a lot of football, but there's only so much. There's a lot of new pieces there, and 2 guys that are now starting in the NFL, and Whippler's on a team, so like that's it's not like these aren't bums that got replaced. These are legitimate people, so I think we all knew before the season it was definitely going to be possibly a work in progress, and that's what it is so far.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have much to add to it. I mean, run blocking's worse than where I thought it would be. Pass blocking might be a little bit ahead of where I thought. However, you still got to look at the competition they've played. Hopefully they keep gelling, keep getting better with the pass blocking and run blocking, of course, because that's where it's weaker. But I'm not sure Notre Dame's ends are going to give them too much of a challenge next week, but they definitely will get challenged once they play Penn State. So hopefully, things are a lot tighter by that point and they're ready to rock and roll. But I don't have a ton more to add. I mean, I think most people say Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson might be right now the weak link, or Hinsman down the left-hand side and the right's been better than the left, but got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
Get it to gel. The more you work together, the more you understand your assignments, when to pass somebody off, when not, climb to the second level. So repetition can only help.
Yeah. I think, and then just, and the Youngstown State is Youngstown State, so the pass blocking did look really good against them, I thought, for the most of the game. But I will say the second half against Indiana, I thought they, pass blocking wise, looked a lot better than they did in the first half against Indiana. So I thought that was a positive sign because, at least, Indiana was trying to come at them a lot more. And I thought they did better there. So, this week's another game and then, the big one. So we got a big one, but, it's so get good reps here. It's, who your quarterback is. And I think that probably will help them because there is maybe some different, especially, you got a quarterback that might be more willing to take off. That's, different blocking than, one that isn't. So, that could be, at least they can stay focused to that, how much it would help. I don't know, but so we'll see how that goes. All right. So defense side of the ball, I think me and you are in the same spot that, there's some nitpicky stuff on the back end, but really it's on the defensive line.
Yeah, I've been okay with the back end. I think, they haven't been perfect, but I mean, rewatching the play that I had issues with against Youngstown State with Cameron Martinez, it actually was good coverage and good recovery on it. Of course, would have liked to see him be able to make a play on the ball, but yeah, I mean, it was a perfect throw for what they needed. The guy had to stretch out and dive for it. It was a hell of a catch. So, I mean, I give them more credit than, what I did previously. I've been okay with the back end. Igmanosin, he can get things a little bit tighter, a little cleaner.
Yeah.
But then, of course, when he does, he's a little handsy. So that's just going to be what it is. I don't mind having an aggressive cornerback, though. That'll be okay. Just don't hurt us, and
I definitely
times when we can't get hurt.
Yeah. And I feel the same way with you about Cam and stuff like that. But I do like the fact that it seems like, that the Hancock, having the three corners out there is definitely, they're going to be very hard to pass on, in those situations. Mm-hmm. And if Knowles, if he is going to bring up a little pressure here and there when he brings his pressures and stuff, it does make more sense to have, if you're going to put guys on islands, it does make more sense to have three of those guys be corners and not, one of them be a safety. So that is a smarter thing. So I'm glad that they have, it seems like have made that switch. Not saying that there's not spots that Cam Martinez can play this year, but I do think that they do work better with the three corners out there than they do with, if they're going to have the third safety on the field, and, I think it's going to be more on running downs and, against bigger personnel packages, and have on against passing teams, which so I have a feeling we'll see a lot of Hancock this weekend against Western Kentucky. But the defensive line is definitely where we are concerned.
That's mostly ends too.
Yeah, because the corners are playing good in my opinion. Yes, there's some things that Igmanosin could, he could clean a couple things up, but he's there.
But the corners have played well against bad competition to this point.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of hard. I think there was some stuff last year and a little bit the year before where you say, well, they're letting guys get open too easily. So, the guys can't get to them. Like, it doesn't seem like that's an excuse this year. Mm-hmm. And so that is definitely the big concern. And I know they kind of, and when you look back on the game, yes, it feels like Youngstown State was more in drop back pass on the first go around than they actually were. They did run it a little bit more than I thought they did. Yeah. But it also wasn't like Indiana. Indiana was purposely trying to just, run the clock out. Youngstown State at least was trying to play at spots. So there were opportunities there that I felt like, okay, this is a Division I, AA, whatever, FCS, whatever that's called now. This is not a Big Ten offensive line at all. And, so like, when they're dropping back to pass, go hit the quarterback. And it's just, that's just getting frustrated. And I don't know, like, and, we've kind of talked about this in private. I know there's a lot of criticism at JT right now just because, everybody expected him to be the dude. But I think he does a lot of the stuff that they're doing is stuff that he's really good at. He's more of a strong side defensive end. He's not necessarily the rush defensive end. So I think the other side is the side that's the issue. And I don't know if it's, if Caden Curry, because he's flashed when he's been in there. We haven't really seen much of Kenyatta, and it's nothing against Jack. I mean, Jack Sawyer, I really like him because he's had moments where he's been very hard in the past couple of years to block, but he's just not consistent. And I don't know, maybe it's time to start splitting reps a little bit more and getting those. I mean, he can still be the guy that starts the games off and stuff like that, but maybe it's time to see what Curry can do at half those snaps. And
right. And I don't know, man. Larry's guys, the toolboxes are getting a lot lighter than what they used to be, because that used to be the thing. You get them all the tools and then they could beat you any which way that they wanted to. Have you seen like JT or Jack do any sort of inside move? I mean, no. They either just bull rush or try to blow past somebody, and it just takes too long to develop. And I know guys will say, hey, it fits within the scheme of what Jim Knowles is trying to do. Jim Knowles says they're doing fine. Like, granted, I'm not all knower of ball and Mr. X's and O's gurus, but use your eyes, man. Like, these guys are rated the top 1 and 3 players in the country in 21. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. 21. Yeah. Yeah. And neither one can get to the quarterback. And it's just, and Michael Hall and Tyleek Williams, and the tackles have been more disruptive, but these are all, 4 top 100 players in the country, not top 100 defensive linemen, top 100 players in the country. And I mean, they're just struggling to get to the quarterback. So I think Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, they got to get some run there, because I think Caden just brings a whole different level of intensity to his game. Yeah. And I think Kenyatta Jackson has better pass rush moves. So maybe I don't know where he fits in. Maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe we need to see the Jack more with, Hicks or Melton. And, see what they can do out there. I know Hicks, that really pissed off a lot of Buckeye fans that he only got 1 snap against Indiana. I do think he deserved more. I understand both ways, though. I'm not losing sleep over him only getting 1 defensive snap. I felt like it's more frustration that he didn't get garbage time snaps against crap teams last year that they played and they blew out. But I'm all for, getting your dudes on the field and letting them make plays. If they do make mistakes, it gets on tape. Just let them, correct it. Give them a correctable lesson. And I don't know. I don't know against Indiana if there was really any fear that they should have had about getting Hicks in the game. But I did, go back and forth with some guys on Twitter. If the offense presented more of like a, hey, we can trade touchdowns with touchdowns type deal, maybe they do get more guys in on defense because they trust the process of the game, the flow of the game more. But when you're not scoring touchdowns, 23-3, that could be 23-10, and then you never know what happens from there. So I'm not saying they were ever in any fear of losing to Indiana, but I can understand that more. But I do want to see Hicks get more run. And
I think where I would like to see him is like, obviously you don't want to take, you don't want to take Tommy and Steele off the field. I mean, that is obvious. And that's where a lot of these issues are also coming from. It's not like that's Tough Borland out there. Nothing against Tough Borland.
But our fans, like, they're treating Steele Chambers like he's Bryson Shaw out there. And again, nothing against that guy. I know he's still at USC, but the guy's fine. Like, why don't act like he's a liability out there? Like, Steele's not a liability. He's a damn good linebacker.
Yeah. No. So I think maybe that's where the spark could be on that other defensive end spot. Maybe where, Hicks, it doesn't necessarily have, hey, it's 3rd and long, go hit the quarterback. And that takes away some of the thought out of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's all you got to do is just go get that guy. And so I would like to see him more in some of that stuff, and where he could use some of his athleticism and maybe just be disruptive. And and that's fine with me. I definitely, I don't need them to be Bosa brothers, Chase Young. I've never needed that. I just need them to be more disruptive than they are.
You just create chaos. You're that good. Just make things fall apart for the offense. Like, you don't necessarily, you don't have to hit the quarterback every time, or you don't need to sack the quarterback every play.
Pressures are just as dangerous as sacks.
And real pressures too. Because everything, they're like, well, they got there, but it's designed, to get the ball out of his hands in 2 seconds. Real disruptive pressure when a lineman's falling into the quarterback's lap and he has to make a throw that he doesn't want to make because it's a split second like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Just create chaos.
And in these teams that the ball is designed to get out of their hands quick, and I want to see more padded. I mean, they get some big guys out there, right? Knock some balls down.
Exactly. If the ball
tip the ball up and maybe get an interception. I don't know.
It's supposed to go that quick. Collapse the pocket as fast as possible. Get your hands up. Get the ball in the air, and get the ball back.
At least get that. At least then you can say, well, yeah, they're not getting sacks, but they had 3 knockdowns and a tipped interception. Right. I would like to see stuff like that. But.
So trust your eyes. I mean, I just don't think the ends are making the impact they need to be making right now, but still plenty of time for that to change.
Yeah. And I think, and we're going to get into this now because we have there's a coaching dynamic here that between the two of them that I think is starting to really bug me. And at first it wasn't bugging me like last year and stuff like that, but you can't have 2 defensive coordinators. You can't. The co-defensive coordinators works. It doesn't work when both of them have equal power. And and I know Larry's not co-defensive coordinator, but there is when Jim Knowles made the comment a couple of weeks ago that, the defensive line, that's Larry's thing, that made me nervous when he said it. And I'm really nervous. They have to have one vision. And so I don't know if they have it right now. And it's just a problem because, there is, and I'm not saying that, they need to get rid of Larry Johnson. That's not what I'm saying. And I want that to be construed that way. It's just that I think it just needs to be told hey, Jim's the defensive coordinator. He gets paid to be the defensive coordinator. And, you are the defensive line coach. We want you to do what you do best, but it's got to be within his system. And that
some ideology of defense is not meshing between the two of them though. Something's messed up with it because the defensive line, at least the ends, they're not making the impact they need to make.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. I think that they need to either button that up this year or, it is time for maybe Larry to retire. And, I don't want to, I know he's still getting the big time recruits and stuff like that, but if they're not performing, if they're not being developed to the point that, what the standard is, and the standard is what the standard is. And, okay, blame the Bosa brothers and Chase Young for, bringing that in, but that's that's what this standard's been set at now over the last several years. And, so I think that hopefully here with reps and stuff like that, they start getting this down, and, they can start being much more disruptive as they play more, balanced offenses and stuff like that. But, we'll see. But that could be definitely a growing concern.
Okay.
All right. Before getting on to Western Kentucky, I think just last concern that has kind of popped up just in general, it's third downs on both sides of the ball. It's been the thing talked about all week through all the, the beat reporters and stuff like that. And Dave's talked about it. They are not getting third down conversions on offense, and they are giving up way too many third down, not getting off the field on defense. And that's where, there's a lot of concerns actually have been brought up about the lack of plays. Well, that would solve a lot of that stuff. You get more plays if you keep the ball longer and you get off the field quicker.
Yeah. I mean, that is what it is. And that's why, I understand the clock change and everything got everybody into a tizzy, but I mean, that is the bulk of the problem, is efficiency, that you're not continuing to keep the chains moving and you're letting the chains keep going against you on defense. I mean, I'll say it, if third down conversion doesn't get better, I'm going to be way, 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 pessimistic about my views of them going undefeated, because that has to get cleaned up. They're currently third to last in the country, something like that.
That's bad.
Yeah, so you gotta, you definitely got to get that fixed, because if it doesn't, I mean, you're just going to run into Michigan from 2021 all over again, where you can't get the ball away from them, and you don't want that. But that could happen against Penn State. That could happen at Wisconsin. I mean,
next week
against Notre Dame. So you got to be able to stop the guys, and you got to be able, score and can just move the chains yourself. So yeah, it's a big concern. I mean, we'll see, as this week goes on, how they look against Western Kentucky and how it improves. But right now, I mean, that's a huge concern.
Yeah. Yeah. I think definitely offensively, I definitely want to see them get they need to get a lot better on their third downs to, again, what the standard's been. The standard for a long time, they make third downs. And I think we kind of talked about this earlier. You don't have to necessarily on these third and shorts, throw some things out there. Maybe, things, hey, oh my God, they hit Marv on, a 3rd and 1 on a slant or whatever,
seriously.
like that. Or, they hit a Buckeye out in the flat, and just whatever, just to throw stuff on tape that is maybe okay, they're not going to run the ball here on third and short, and they can do other things. And,
or what about motioning Ibuka out and then replacing him with Henderson and just throwing the ball instead of waiting for it to be a check down? And it's just, he's receiver 1 on that play. I've seen Sark do it. I was so impressed with how Texas played Alabama. And I know Alabama might not be what they were last year or whatever, but he called a brilliant game.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why we can't see more of things like that. I mean, he uses motion every play, and it always has purpose. It's either it's getting someone open or it's a decoy to get someone else open.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. So third downs definitely have to get better, and on the defense side of the ball, they need to get off the field. And I know Western Kentucky is going to challenge them in a lot of that stuff, because, their whole offense is built on, getting a lot of third and shorts and getting a lot of third and shorts and getting a lot of third short. And then they go on top, and that's the air raid for you. It's going to be a lot of throwing the ball, a lot of quick hitters, and then up top, a lot of quick hitters up top. And that's how they play. So there's going to be a lot of challenge there. All right, Western Kentucky. Speaking of them, let's move on to this week's game. So we've aired all of our grievances so far for the first 2 weeks.
I know, I feel bad. It's not like a dog on Ohio State day or anything like that. It's just, there are concerns, but it is to be expected when you have a new team. I kind of thought the process would be different getting to this point. And I know Austin Ward specifically thinks he's kind of going, Dave's going about this as a preseason, which I kind of see, because, you your running backs in the last game got 6, 6, and 5 carries. So I definitely could see that being the deal, trying to keep people fresh. But then on the other side of it, it's like Marv's been in most of the game. So not quite meeting, all the way with that philosophy. But I do see some of that. The day is kind of treating this like a preseason, just kind of getting people's feet wet, getting, plays cleaned up, whatever it may be, trying to not just like settling for, hey, this is Indiana, this is Youngstown State, I could run 4 verts all day long and beat these guys by 70 points. So, I mean, I do respect that and appreciate it, but I don't know. I mean, it's not where I would like to see it right now.
Yeah.
Of course, it's only 2 weeks in, but it's been bad competition. So, yeah, hopefully it keeps getting cleaner. Hopefully it keeps getting better. I mean, it looked like it was getting better offensively last week. So
yeah,
maybe you keep growing on that. Western Kentucky, they throw the ball a ton.
Yeah.
They average, what do they average? Like close to 330 in the air. So nothing crazy. They give up a lot. They're not a great defensive team. But they got a really, Austin Reed, he's their quarterback. Dave said he's an NFL quarterback today. And then Malachi Corley, that's their slot receiver.
Yeah, it's something like that.
He's really good.
He's their guy in he led the country last year in yards after catch. So he's going to be a real deal. I do like that's probably, like I said, it's smart that the defenses went into the, getting Hancock now into the game, because I have expectations that we're going to be playing a lot of that, style defense tomorrow on Saturday, where they are going to need the 3 corners on the field, because, they are going to get challenged. And I don't want to see bad mismatches on safeties and try to take those away as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I mean, I think Ohio State just don't get overly aggressive on defense. Try to see what your defensive line can do. If they can kind of take over the game. I think you're going to need a heavy dose of Hancock out on the field, though, to be on those slot receivers. And like you said, just somebody with better coverage skills being out there. Offense, just keep doing what you're doing. I would really, really like to see them. It's just figure out some sort of run game.
Yeah, I would too.
I would keep trying to improve on your power scheme if it was me, but just figure something out.
I think they need to. It's a weird balance. I definitely want to see them start getting the running game right, but at the same time, Mccord needs to get as many. I mean, he needs to feel comfortable going into.
Yeah, they got to clean up some stuff in the middle, timing wise, with Igbuka, because there's been both of them. Him and Brown have been late on throws to Igbuka or Marv going out, to the sideline throws. So you got to clean that stuff up. Get your timing down. So I agree with that. Yes, I would love to see Trey go off, but I think timing going into Notre Dame might be more important. So
yeah, that's kind of like
clean your passing up.
That's just kind of where I'm at. I mean, obviously I want to see them run the ball. I'm not saying throw the ball on every down. I don't need this to be a 5-hour game, but
and I want to see more G. Scott.
Yeah, I want to.
He deserves it, man. Like he is playing better than Stover.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the way G. Scott's playing. Very rightfully so hard on him after the Michigan thing last year. But he came in with his head on his shoulders and he's playing very, very good. And so, yeah, he, let's reward him now. And, I definitely want to see, continue kind of the strategy from last week and take it to the next step now. Let's get our receivers in the game. Let's, get them moving. Let's get touchdowns and, and get those tight ends in there too. And they're, especially Scott. I really like, the versatility that he adds to the offense. And right now I'm liking the way he's blocking too. I don't know what's going on with Cade. It's just that, I mean, it's the blocking too. That's just kind of like,
I know. And that's a part of his game that you thought would be real, just like buttoned up and, a strong suit. And it just, he's actually a better receiver than he is a blocker, which kind of stuns me. But yeah, G deserves it. And I know we're really early in the season. Chip Trainum is a very good lead blocker, though. So definitely interested in that keep going on down by the end zone. Okay, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Speaking of the running game, and I don't know if we're here yet, it might be another week or two. And I'm fine with the 3 running backs how they're kind of doing it. I'd like to see them get more to 2 running backs, as the season goes on. But right now, I guess let's keep the legs fresh and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I definitely get more passes to those, and any of them. I don't care. Just start coming up with some stuff, and it's okay. I'm not saying let's throw the whole kitchen sink at Western Kentucky. We can hold some stuff back, but it also doesn't hurt to throw some stuff on paper and be like, hey,
right.
Don't think of it necessarily about setting Western Kentucky up for later in the game. Think about you possibly setting Notre Dame up next week. Throw some swing passes that could be 60-yard to Marv passes next week. Getting safeties to inch up on a running back coming out of the backfield and then slipping a receiver behind him. That's things that they could set Notre Dame up for next week, and other teams down the season by showing things at them. So
I'm very low on the strategy of hiding your playbook. Like if you're gonna run it, you're gonna run it. So get better at it. Don't just pull the rabbit out of the hat and you're not that great at it because you don't ever show it in a game. Like work on it. I know you work on it in practice, but there's a difference between practice and live bullets. And I think we can all agree on that after a couple of years of watching, run blocking. Yeah, you get all this smoke blown up your butt that you got the best run blocking team there is, and you can't get a 3rd and 1. So I'm not all for the whole hiding of the playbook strategy. I think, just work on what you need to. Get better at it. Who cares if someone sees it? Like you got a million, great skill players. You can build off of that play, like you said, it could set someone else up. You counter off of it.
Yeah. And just because teams see it doesn't mean that they can go stop it. No. That's you have a lot of great skill players. Just because you might do some wacky to Marvin Harrison doesn't mean that they'll be able to line up and stop that play next week.
And you can always use, pre-snap motions. There's a ton of things you can do to, get that same look again without a team being ready for it. So yeah, I'm kind of there with you. You don't have to go like balls to the wall, but at the same time, show your playbook, pedal to the metal type deal,
Yeah. Okay. So, and then defensively, just, I don't know how again, their offense is designed about getting the ball out fast. I want to see some more inside moves from the defensive ends though.
Active hands or something.
Just bat some balls down, get in there on the inside a little bit more. That if that's what the strategy is, get the ball out quickly. Well, then the quickest way to the quarterback is coming, inside of the tackle. So instead of coming from the outside. So do some things, maybe run some stunts. Again,
twist the lineman, whatever.
We don't have to hold things for let Notre Dame see, because in the first, and I know that was a wacky game because, the weather delay there, and NC State has seen Sam Hartman a lot. So, he might have some tells and things like that, but they were getting Notre Dame's offensive line is good, but maybe not as good as I thought coming into the season, because they were getting some legitimate pressure on Hartman early in that game. Yep. And so, putting him on his butt. So, it's time to start coming at it, make them see some of this stuff, and it's okay. And you don't have to show it all, but show some of it. Make them think that, JT might be doing an inside move to the, a wraparound or whatever, or a stunt here. And Jack, this is the same play they did a stunt last week. And it's not liquid, is it?
No.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So we got a little cleanup coming up here, but this is what it is. All right. You want to score for the game? We got anything else you want to throw out there for the game? I just want them to look better. Let's keep progressing. Let's keep moving towards Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 56-17.
Yeah, I'm actually same spot as you are pretty much. I'm giving them one less point for us, so 55. I think it's going to be 21. I think this is the first time. I do think, and that's no alarm on the defense. Western Kentucky can stretch the field. They're going to do some different things, and that's a good thing. If this stuff is being trained as preseason, it'll be good, even for our pass defense that I think is better than where it was over the last couple seasons. But they do need to get challenged in spots, so I think this is a good thing. And before Sam Hartman, it is a good thing. And so let's not as long as it's not and I don't think it will be a score for score shootout. I'm fine giving up 17 to 21 points. Because they could use it.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
IO. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. IO.